Joining me now for this bonus episode of Locked On Gators, like he does every Saturday, is Tyler Forness at the Real Forno. And I don't know about you, Tyler, but last week was not kind to me. I can say that one because, the little 24 and a half didn't exactly cover. The Florida Gators did not exactly cover 24 and a half, but for the first time since week one, the Florida Gators are now underdogs heading into their Saturday matchup against Tennessee, which is obviously happening later today at 3:30 Eastern time. Tennessee favored by 10.5 points. How do you feel about it?
Look, the Gators should be underdogs here. They underwhelmed massively over the last two games. And in week one, we got really excited about the Anthony Richardson flash plays. He was seeing the field well. He was explosive. He made plays that 2-point conversion, that's a Heisman moment. Those plays are what win you the Heisman Trophy along with your body of work. You have to have the flash. And that's why we got so excited. And then he kind of forgot how to play football. And we talked about it last week. He's a toolbox. He doesn't have the wheels on properly yet, and he doesn't know how to use his natural gifts. He will learn, and he will continue to see improvement. But the tough part is, how quickly is he going to see that? And I think Billy Napier is starting to really learn, and we saw this towards the end of the game. Hey, this guy knows how to use his, what to do. He doesn't know how to do it. And I think they're going to lean on Trevor Etienne, who has been arguably the best player on the Florida offense consistently. He runs just like his brother. And it feels like a lazy comparison. It's not a lazy comparison. And it's honestly really impressive because he has been very good. And then you have Montrell Johnson next to him outside of the fumble, has also been very good. Naquan Wright, who has been my guy for the last couple of years, has really kind of taken a step behind them, which is fine. But Wright is also a good back. Lean on the running game, be multiple with it, be diverse, use some jet action. Get guys like Whittemore and Henderson on jet sweeps to try and keep the defense honest. You can open up some of those holes easier in the running game, especially with that inside zone. You can do a lot of things with how you spread this offense out. Give Anthony Richardson layups. Let him hit layups, get some confidence. Then maybe you can hit some deep shots later on in the game, like deep 15-yard crossers to Pearsall. That should be the bread and butter of this offense moving forward. And then obviously, I just want to chuck it deep. I feel comfortable letting him do that. But you have to get Richardson into a groove. You have to get him confident. It kind of likens me to my favorite team, the Vikings. Quarterback is Kirk Cousins. Cousins is good. He's not great. And the key to getting him to have a successful game is he needs to get into a rhythm early, get some confidence, get into the flow. And then once you do that, he can really take over and be a very, very good quarterback. And I think some of those same traits you have to pass along to Anthony Richardson. I think 10.5 is too high. I would have put this at about 7, but the Gators absolutely deserve to be dogs in this game.
Yeah, it's not great for Florida right now on the offensive side of the ball. And the money line here is set with Florida plus 300, Tennessee minus 370. I feel like just based on the times that we've recorded before, minus 370 is one of those lines where you're going to say it's not worth it to bet on it unless you parlay it. But let me hear it from you.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Brandon. I would, if you believe Florida's going to win, and Florida has a track record of going to Tennessee and winning. The only loss that they've had at Tennessee since, I believe, 2002 was that 2016 game where the Butch Jones-led squad with Josh Dobbs was able to score, I think, 28 or 31 points in the second half to win by double digits. That's the only win for Tennessee at home in that stretch. I would feel pretty comfortable betting on Florida with the money line. But honestly, I love Florida against the spread, 10.5. I just think it's too much with how good this Florida defense has played. Obviously, you only have the 3-game sample size, but 26, 26, and 28, that's a level of consistency, especially when you talk about 2 pro-style offenses and a spread offense. You're looking at a little bit of everything. If you cover Hendon Hooker's first read, he will struggle. And all you have to do is play solid in the running game in order to prevent some of those RPOs from really gashing you. I think Florida can cover 10.5. I'm not super confident they win. I am very confident that they cover.
All right, and let me ask this because I probably should have asked it earlier. Is all of this analysis, including that you think Cedric Tillman will play, won't play, or honestly doesn't even matter?
I don't think it matters, but obviously you're going to feel a lot more comfortable with the money line if Tillman does not play. I do not trust Tennessee's offense to really be able to put up points against the best defense that they've played so far. They played a couple of bad MAC teams, including a Ball State team that is just horrendous. And then on the other side, they played Pitt, and they were losing to Pitt before Keaton Slovis got hurt. And then they still had needed overtime to beat that Pitt team. I don't trust Tennessee's offense to be able to put up enough points, even though their pace of play is going to give them more opportunities because they are one of the fastest teams in college football with Josh Heupel at the helm. But their defense isn't exactly what you would call world beaters either. I think the Gators, if they run a lot of play action, counter action, get them thinking rather than reacting, and I think that could be the key. The Gators should cover this game. I don't trust Tennessee. I really don't. And it's not the fact that like they're one of the Gators' biggest rivals, and you and I are obviously huge Florida Gator fans. Like that's one of the reasons why we do this segment every week, because we're passionate about the program. Tennessee does not inspire confidence in me. Their over/under for win total, I believe, is 8.5. And I'm like, how in the world are you betting over that with how many good teams this Tennessee team is playing? They got lucky against Pitt considering Slovis went down. They still have Georgia. They still have Kentucky, Florida, Alabama, and then South Carolina is a wild card because what if Spencer Rattler does figure it back out? Like, I don't trust this Tennessee team. They still need to prove me something because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, no, that's something that I've been dealing with the YouTube comments this week. Is just like, oh, like how are you going to say, Tennessee hasn't shown anything yet? It's like, well, they played one good team, two bad MAC teams, and my favorite comment this week, well, Tennessee can't control who they play.
Yes, they can. Are you
exactly
kidding? They can control who they play.
They control
That
exactly who they play. That
that
was my
drives me
favorite
bonkers.
comment.
These guys control who they play.
Yep.
They do. They
That was
schedule
my
these
favorite comment.
games.
Favorite comment was that they can't control who they play or when they play them. And I was like, you don't know how college football works. But the last bit
Odie
of
is
this,
so upset he walked over to me to start talking, and now he's just chewing on my chair.
he is pissed.
He is pissed.
Before we get into the props for this game, the over under is set at 63. I think I know where you're going, but where are you headed with it?
63. 31-28 was the score last week, and it felt like a not an offensive showcase. I think that this total goes over because I think Florida is going to run the football effectively against the Tennessee defense that hasn't inspired a lot of confidence in me. I think Tennessee is going to put up some points against the Gators. I don't know how much, but I think 35 is not out of the realm of possibility. I think this could easily be a 35-31 football game, maybe a little higher if Cedric Tillman plays. I would feel pretty comfortable going over, but there really wouldn't be a result that shocked me with how Anthony Richardson, has played football this year.
Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up the college football season or professional football season. You got it there too. It's easy to play and win cold, hard cash in a single game. I know I have every intention of making money this weekend by picking Montrell Johnson to have more than 54.5 rushing yards. Underdog has investment backing by Kevin Durant, Adam Schefter, and so many more to help build a fantasy platform with a fun user experience. I've always said I love clicking that little share, and I love the layout. It's just so aesthetically pleasing for me. With a great support team, sign up with the promo code Locked On, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get another $100 for free. Yeah. And then speaking of Anthony Richardson, now we're talking about his props for this week. Passing yards is set at 175.5. Last week it was 180.5, I think, maybe 185.5, but obviously a bit lower this week. How you feel about that one?
Honestly, with these, you have to bet the under until he really proves something. He's only eclipsed 200 yards, I believe, once in his entire career, and that was last season. I'm not touching the over on these unless it drops to about 150 or he proves that he can do it. Because so far, he has not. And Odie is chewing on my deodorant. Oh, boy. For those of you who don't know, I have a 12-week-old French bulldog puppy named Odie, and he's wonderful. But my God, this dog loves to chew.
He's just pumped for the game. That's all it is.
He is hyped. But he loves chewing.
Rushing yards for Anthony Richardson is set at 41.5. We haven't seen him be aggressive as a runner since the Utah game. How do we feel about that one?
I think this may be where they start to really focus on him rushing the football because they cannot trust his arm to be consistent. And that's the key. It's not that he's not really good. He's got all-world talent. And we know this. We've known this forever. You and I have been talking for a long time, Brandon. I loved this kid as a recruit. He's got the talent. He doesn't know how to use it, and I think they're going to transition to utilizing him more, especially in the RPO game, quarterback power, and you're going to see that total get up towards 60 or 70.
Yeah, I think also when you look at, the past 2 weeks, he didn't run much. Kentucky did a great job of containing him when he did try to move. South Florida, he didn't try to run that much. I think when you look at this game, it's like, well, Anthony Richardson needs to run the ball if Florida wants to win this game because he hasn't shown he can do it throwing the ball, and you have to at least have that threat. But throwing the ball, TD passes, set at 1.5 for this game on BetOnline.
Under.
Yeah,
I think you have to go under. Here's the thing. Props is where you can make money easily because Vegas they don't make a ton of money in these things, and you're never going to get better odds than like minus 115 or 110. Like this is where you can really clean up if you understand. One of the best guys to go to for props, Eric Froton of NBC Sports. There is going to be a way you make a lot of money. How can you trust him to throw 2 touchdown passes? Like right now, you just can't. You can't. And I would probably lean towards, if you are choosing to bet this or not, don't bet it because who knows? They get around the 1-yard line and he throws a couple flat routes or the Tebow jump pass and he throws 2 touchdowns. Touchdowns are a volatile and random stat, and it's very hard to predict touchdown totals. You want to go anytime touchdown scorer? As far as passing touchdowns, I would slam it. But going for or against multiple, I wouldn't touch.
And then interceptions for Anthony Richardson for this game is set at a flat 1.
Don't touch it because if he throws 1, it's a push. I don't know if he throws enough to get 2. If it was 0.5, I'd smash it. If it was 1.5, I'd hit the under. But at 1, I don't think it's worth your time.
And then rushing touchdown plus 100 for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's a good bet. That's a good bet, especially goal line. They obviously trust ETN and Johnson to take those snaps, but you also have a 6'4", 235-pound quarterback who runs with power and speed. I will take that.
And the final prop we have is not Anthony Richardson. This is the first time that I have seen a non-Anthony Richardson prop on a Florida Gator game this season. Montrell Johnson over-under is set at 54.5 rushing yards on BetOnline.
Now, I'm trying to remember Montrell Johnson's rushing yard totals. I would probably go over on this because I really do think they're going to transition to more of the running game in this game. And I think that's going to make a really big difference for the Gators here because they don't want Anthony Richardson to feel pressured to really drive the ball down the field with any form of consistency. And I think they're really going to focus on ETN and Johnson moving forward as the backs. If you remember Montrell Johnson for Louisiana last year, he was dominant. True freshman, ran for over 900 yards in the Sun Belt. Not an easy thing to do, especially when he was in a timeshare with Chris Davis. I like Montrell Johnson as the over. I would project about 75, 80 yards for him.
Yeah, he's gone over 54.5 in all 3 games this season, even though he only carried the ball 7 times against Kentucky, 6 times against South Florida, 12 times against Utah, but he's gone over it every time. And he's one of those guys where he's a home run hitter. Like he's going to break off a long run and you have to just go, okay, then the rest of his runs, if that run itself isn't more than 54.5, then the rest of his runs will get him there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he kind of gives me that Brees Hall, Adrian Peterson vibe of, hey, yeah, he's gonna have like 2-1-0, -3-1-2-4, 80, 4-2. Like that's just the kind of guy he is. He's gonna break off big ones, and there's a place for that because it could come at any time.
Yeah, he is so lethal on the ground. I love it. I love
Oh,
it. I
absolutely.
love the rushing attack this year. It's fantastic. I just hope that they just feed them against Tennessee. That that's what I want to see. I want to see the Sully too. Thank you so much, Tyler. This was Tyler Forness at the Real Forno on Twitter, and you can catch him everywhere with everywhere that there is written content because Tyler is there to do it. That man is a beast. And every Saturday, Locked On Gators, he'll be here in the morning.